Hello and welcome to Indie Attack with Kelson and
Woody.
Today we have Mimicry Man. This is a kind of a twist on a RPG trope of the mimic treasure chest that is actually not a treasure chest. It's a monster trying to lure in the intrepid traveler looking for good treasure. Only the mimic isn't necessarily a bad guy in this game.
Yes, you're playing as the mimic.
You are the mimic, and it's very anime, cartoony, cutesy.
Yeah. As you said, playing around with a lot of RPG tropes.
Yeah, there's a plot. Like, what's cool, I thought, was that there's basically you're following parallel stories of the mimic and the Dark Lord, and you're trying to become a good mimic, and then there's the hero who's looking for the awesome sword, and you're basically racing to get to the sword.
It's essentially a protracted trading sequence.
Yes, yeah, that's the mechanic of the game.
As your mimic chest, you need to put items in your chest that will lure specific monsters to you. When you defeat those monsters by surprising them as a mimic, you will get an item from them. So you kill a cow, and you get milk from the cow.
Right.
Well, then something else wants the milk, and from that you get a witch's hat.
Right.
And then you can trade the witch's hat for porn.
Right, exactly. The porn goes to the horny street boy, and you kind of, there's tiers, and basically there's like 5 different maps, and they get repopulated.
Monsters,
and like new monsters will show up who then have, and there's basically, you press the shift key, and you get this map, and it's all in it is your sort of interconnected web, sort of like the Final Fantasy X leveling system grid of like all the things that connect that lead to, you know.
And you can also combine items to create different items.
Right,
so
synthesis.
To create pudding, you need milk and
eggs.
Eggs,
Yes, and you have to get the eggs, you have to give the bird the diamond from the old lady.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and it's very...
So it's very similar to like old Legend of Zelda trading quests. Where a bunch of people around the island want, an item, and you have to get all of the item, and you eventually wind up with something cool at the end.
Definitely. And it had a vibe of one of those sort of like Japanese, like, I don't know, like the leveling up of your item sort of a world thing.
It was made on RPG Maker.
Yes, it's
so
very
And that kind of contributes to what is a little bit of my problem with it, is that this game has a kind of an awkward menu system for everything.
It does, doesn't
it?
Like,
the controls are a little awkward, and I feel like it's not necessarily an intentional design choice. It's probably just whatever flowed well out of the engine they were using it.
Yeah.
Because your controls are like up, down, left, and right, and up and down do different things depending on where you are on screen. And I just feel like it would have worked better with just a traditional, strict menu system instead of
I'm with you. I'm sure this drove you crazy when you go to like your Shadow Lord guy will like identify an item for you, but that's also, you have to like make him identify it and then press up to get to the combining items menu, and it's just like, those should have been 2 different menus.
Because, to scroll through your levels, you press up and down on one specific item on the screen.
Right.
To go to the Shadow Lord, you do up on a different part of the screen.
Yeah.
To go to where you're combining your items, that's down on a different part of the screen. And
Definitely.
It's just, I feel like if you just had a mouse and you just clicked on where you wanted to go, that would be a much more...
Or a controller that was just like X this menu, Y this menu, B this menu, and then A is your select.
And it's one of those things, I don't necessarily understand the design decision of doing that. Yeah. Maybe if it was like a plain mobile release or something that could contribute to that, but it just doesn't really make sense, I don't think.
Sure. But I gotta say, I really... despite that, this game just like hooked me. I like RPG tropes, let alone games that make fun of RPG tropes. I appreciated the sort of tongue-in-cheek stuff going on, and it's super simplistic and yet deep enough and like silly enough. It's one of those weird things where like Valkyrie Profile, if you ever played that game, basically that whole game is like you're walking around talking to people, and it's like all just RPG stuff. So if you're into RPG-ness, you might enjoy that. Like, oh, now I can do this and get to this guy and get to this guy.
I enjoy, like, I would echo that. I enjoy how it plays with RPG tropes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I also, from a personal standpoint, I like seeing novel little games like this that do things like focus on one little part of a game, or playing as a kind of character you wouldn't normally play as. Like, playing as the ghosts in Pac-Man Versus or something like that. And just kind of twisting it to be enough of something we haven't seen before.
Definitely. It's fun. It's charming, damn it. Yeah. It's charming, and so it doesn't, I wouldn't say that it like blew my mind or anything, but I would
say it's a pretty literal take on what it would be like to play a mimic.
Yeah. Well, if anything, I was like, why... The one thing I didn't understand is why don't you get to keep the item that you lured people and killed? It's like, I don't understand. That was just a very video gamey, like, this is how it works, even though it didn't really make sense if you're killing...
Yeah, it's a very systematic approach.
Yeah, it is very great.
And the systems work, but overall, it's if you like your JRPGs, it's a definite recommendation, but if you hate all that crap, you're probably not going to like this either.
I can see a lot of people who would hate this game, for sure. You know, it's one of those games where it's definitely like, if you're into menus, man, like, you know, and like bibbidi-bobbidi zipping around your menus and talking to weird anime witch chicks and dudes, you know, it's...
Yeah.
Check it out. But I loved it, so...
it was a pretty fun experience. I don't think I'm going to come back to it, and I don't really think I'd put the time into this to, like, beat it 100% or anything. But I had fun with it, with what I did play with it, so that's a recommendation for me.
Definitely. And I think on the other end of it, I think I'm addicted enough where just for whatever reason it hits that pleasure center, I think I will complete it. So I think we have a range of enjoyed to pretty damn enjoyed from me. So, Mimicry Man.
Alright, Mimicry Man. Check it out.